Hi, I am Paul Bogard. I am the author of this book, The End of Night, and I'm here to read a couple passages from that book and a third passage from something new that I'm working on. This is a three-part reading that was recently published in the International DarkSky Association newsletter, and I want to thank the IDA for inviting me to be part of that newsletter with Babek and his wonderful photographs, and to thank the IDA for all the work they do on behalf of Dark Skies. I hope that you enjoy hearing me read some of my writing. 1. The most beautiful starry night I've ever seen was more than 30 years ago when I was backpacking through Europe as an 18-year-old high school graduate. I had traveled south from Spain into Morocco, and from there south to the Atlas Mountains at the edge of the Sahara Desert, to a place where nomadic tribes came in from the desert to barter and trade, a place that when I look on a map I can no longer find. One night in a youth hostel that was more like a stable, I woke and walked out into a snowstorm. But it wasn't the snow I was used to in Minnesota or anywhere else I'd been. Standing bare chest to cool night, wearing flip-flops and shorts, I let a storm of stars swirl around me. I saw the sky that night in 3 dimensions. The sky had depth, some stars seemingly close, some much farther away. The Milky Way so well defined, it had what astronomers call structure, that sense of its twisting depths. I remember stars from one horizon to the other, in a night sky so plush it still seems like a dream. So much was right about that night. It was a time of my life when I was every day experiencing something new. I felt open to everything, as though I were made of clay and the world was imprinting upon me its breathtaking beauty. Standing nearly naked under that Moroccan sky, skin against the air, the dark, the stars, the night pressed its impression, and my lifelong connection was sealed. 2. At twilight, on a clear night at the end of June, I parked in a Cape Cod National Seashore lot and descended to the sand and the sea. I loved the feeling of striding out to meet the night, and this was a night I had been looking forward to ever since reading Henry Beston's The Outermost House. Shore fires ahead and behind, bird calls all around, the pump and splash of crashing surf, the gathering curtains of dusk over the ocean to the east. Finally, I was walking Beston's beach. Our fantastic civilization has fallen out of touch with many aspects of nature, and with none more completely than with night, Beston wrote. With lights and ever more lights, we drive the holiness and beauty of night back to the forests and the sea. That Beston was aware of lights and ever more lights back in 1928 was remarkably prescient. It would be decades before electric lighting reached much of rural America, and could we step back to see the country then, most of us would not believe our eyes. This was still a very dark land. Yet in addressing his contemporaries, he sounds as if he's addressing us. Today's civilization is full of people who've not the slightest notion of the character or the poetry of night, who've never even seen night, he wrote. Yet to live thus, to know only artificial night, is as absurd and evil as to know only artificial day. Near the end of his book, near the end of his year, having intimately known the great rhythms of nature for nearly 4 seasons through, Beston wrote of an appreciation for a sense that the creation was still going on, that the creative forces are as great and as active today as they have ever been, and that tomorrow's morning will be as heroic as any of the world. I wanted to walk this beach to see if I could sense the power of the old world he'd known, and though diminished, it is still here. The birds still migrate at night, the schools of fish still move close to shore, the Milky Way bends as it always has. I wanted to see if night here still grows dark enough for such wildness, if it's still possible to step for yourself through a place where the world we will know is still being formed. In the darkness of the sky, the beach, the sea, it is. 3. On my daughter's first night home, 2 days from her birth, I took her to see the stars. I wrapped her in fleece, held her close, and stepped out into a late spring night. Just above a neighbor's roofline, I found the late setting moon among a last handful of bright stars and lifted my daughter toward the night sky, a sight that with its steady, distant ancient fires will accompany her no matter the changes all through her life. We live in the southern half of a northern city, and like almost any city, ours uses light haphazardly, wastefully, sending much of it skyward to disrupt insects, confuse night-migrating birds, and wipe away the stars. And even so, as anywhere, night is half our life, and darkness a natural part of what it means to be alive. In this strange time, told to keep our distance and not knowing what's to come, I think of the poet Wendell Berry, waking in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, and finding in the night the peace of wild things. Let us find this peace in the night as well. Let us use this time, if we can, to recognize the remaining beauty around us and to rededicate ourselves to keeping it part of our and our children's experience of life. Let us remember that when all this has passed, the starry night will still be there, calling to us, inviting us to respond. Thanks for listening. We'll see you soon.